Laura, come on. Summer's almost over now. But don't worry, I'm going to take some of this holiday back with us, and I've got an amazing guest lined up. So come on, let's hop on that plane. So today we have Adam Goyette, who is VP of Marketing at Help Scout. Help Scout are a help desk software company based out of Boston, and Adam is just simply amazing. He's got more than 15 years experience building B2B SaaS companies in a variety of marketing functions. And I had the pleasure of working with him last year here at G2 and finally got him to agree to have a breakfast in bed episode with Laura and I. And I hope you enjoy because it was absolutely one of my favorites and we learned a lot in this one. So please. Right, Adam, good morning. Good morning to you in the US in Chicago, right?
Yeah, good morning. How's it going? Or good afternoon, I guess I should say to you.
Yeah, we had a bit of a lie-in today, so we're only just getting out of bed.
Long lie-in.
I'm very excited to have you join us for Breakfast in Bed and tell us a little bit about what's going on in your world. We have 4 key questions that we'd love to hear your thoughts on. And if you don't mind, we'll jump straight in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Fantastic. So first question, you recently joined Help Scout, probably weeks before the pandemic really took its toll in the market. Can you perhaps, first of all, share with our listeners who are Help Scouts, what do you help companies with, and what was the experience like joining a company to head up their marketing only weeks before the pandemic?
Yeah, not great timing. It was also a month before we had my 3rd child, so I was seeing how much like drama I could throw into my life. It's been great, to be honest with you. Help Scout's a really interesting company. We do help desk software at the basic level for smaller companies, right? Early stage startups, small businesses, and really, I think the software is built in a really human way to make those connections and communicate with customers in an efficient way. And so joining the company at that time was interesting because I started April 1st. So I had accepted like in early March and started April 1st. So like you said, like the last trip I took was actually out to Colorado to meet with the founder. And so it's been good in terms of like, it's help desk software. So most people aren't ripping that out, right? It's a little bit different than, being in the marketing world where budgets are getting cut. Most people aren't ripping and replacing their help desk software. And if anything, we've actually seen a good increase in inbound traction because we're not the highest price ticket in the market today. There's tons of other competitors that are more focused on the enterprise space that are really expensive and really bloated in terms of can do a lot of things. But most companies actually don't end up utilizing all of that. And so a lot of companies are now looking, to gain efficiencies, especially when all this happened, and looking to save costs. So they're looking at their tech stack probably with, different views than they did before and saying like, is this the best spend of our money? And so we actually have seen a pretty decent growth over, this year, even with everything happening with COVID.
Yeah. And do you think that there are any specific focus areas from a demand gen and marketing perspective that have given you guys a competitive advantage, especially versus your market competitors? And I only ask that from, having the experience of working with you in the past. You're one of the most tech savvy and digital demand gen focused heads of marketing that I've ever worked with. So I would imagine that this worked very much in your advantage.
Yeah, well, that's nice of you to say. You should work with better. You should have worked with some better tech people in the past if I'm the best. So I think there's 2 advantages Help Scout had. One is from a brand and organic standpoint, right? It's a really strong brand. Customers love Help Scout. And it's one of the big reasons I was super excited to join the company. Sites like G2, we have 200 plus reviews, all organic, amazing reviews of just super happy customers, and it's got a really interesting, compelling brand that people love. And so that, I think that goes a long way from building up demand. And when things happen like crazy pandemics and all this stuff and marketing budgets get cut, we still had a steady stream of organic traffic, a steady stream of organic signups. So, you're able to kind of like withstand those times without spending a lot of money. And then I think the other thing is like just being super creative about your approach and like low cost ways you can go about doing things, right? Because not everything requires a $50,000 ABM tool to go out and run a campaign, right? And so I think for us, we've just been trying to be really smart and really tactical about what we're doing and focusing on. So I think it's with also just looking at the funnel today and just identifying where are the points we want to actually like improve that'll have meaningful impact all the way through, right? So if everything, it's no different than like looking at a sales team, right? If you're looking at your sales funnel and saying like, hey, all of our deals keep getting stuck at negotiation, if we improve that stage alone, here's the downstream effect, right? So like you could do 100 different things in terms of training the team and getting the team up to speed on different things, but if you just focused in on that one area and everything else stayed the same, the results you would get would be pretty amazing. So that's kind of where I think we've tried to just focus in on like where are the holes in the bucket that we need to plug.
And tapping into that a bit more than Adam, using your digital demand gen expertise, I think, it seems like we're going to be looking at now a very flat U-shaped recovery from this pandemic, or potentially even a W shape. And a lot of marketeers have now shifted to 100% digital for obvious reasons. How, I guess, from your expertise, how do you think that people should be preparing for that recovery, and what digital tools, tech stack, any tips that you can give marketeers who potentially digital is potentially quite new for them?
Yep. So I think there's a couple things. I mean, one is I think a lot of times people think just throwing money at the problem, like we're going to run this campaign and target VPs of marketing, right? And if you're selling a marketing automation tool, you build out your persona on LinkedIn of who you want to target, or Facebook or wherever, and you go after that persona and you run ads against it. And that's like the most basic level of way of doing it. And people throw a lot of money at things doing it that way. The big component that's missing there is like two things. One, alignment with the sales team to say like, unless you're a self-serve model, are you actually aligning your efforts with who the sales team is going after? Because you see such a greater return if it's in coordination with BDR outreach, BDR emails, all these sorts of things. So I think aligning with the sales team of like who those target accounts are, you'll get way more efficiencies because you're hitting them on multiple channels. Because like marketing running campaigns on their own, unless you're again a self-serve model, it's not necessarily going to drive it all the way through the funnel. So I think that's one. Two is also like trying to get a better understanding of who's in market. So obviously I worked at G2 with Enrique for a while, and I'm a big fan. But I think the intent data piece is like, if you are targeting VPs of marketing in that example, and you have a marketing automation offering, if I signed a contract with HubSpot or just renewed with HubSpot 2 months ago, 3 months ago, targeting me is a waste of your ad dollars for 9 months. Or, you know what I mean? So like every month you're just wasting money putting ads in front of me. I have no intention of switching. It's not even remotely in my head. I just signed a contract, right? I'm probably not. And so I think adding on those additional layers of intent, whether you're using the tool like G2 or you're even going out and using like data scrapers to say like, when was the tech installed on a site? So there's Wappalizer, there's Datanyze, there's all these tools out there to say like, hey, 9 months ago, they put a HubSpot tracking pixel on their site. Pretty good chance they're coming up for renewal in 2 months, 3 months. Let's start targeting this company, right? And so I just think being really smart about who you're actually spending your ad dollars going against.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because what I read was that marketing budgets have been squeezed, but also ad costs have actually lowered, right? So especially bidding type dollars, like the costs are lower, right, to run ads at the moment, but there's less budget around as well, right?
Yeah, and I think there's less budget too. So like, there's also less budget for your buyers, right? And so taking that into consideration, you have to be super precise about who you're going after. And I'm also a big fan of just focusing in on efforts around things that are going to be evergreen, right? Like paid spend and paid social are great, but they're very much dollar in, dollar out. And the second you stop spending, you stop seeing results. So setting up things, with your traffic and organic content and investing in, whether it be ebooks, whatever you're doing, right? Like something that you can use beyond these campaigns, and making sure that part of your marketing budget is actually going towards those kind of evergreen things you can keep using.
And I think something that you said there that really resonated to me, as a sales leader, was this piece around sales and marketing alignment. And I think, we all talk about it, but actually operationally, how can we really get us singing from the same hymn sheet? So clearly you guys have worked together in the past. So any tips that I guess both of you could give on how sales and marketing operationally can make this a day-to-day habit to be in tune with each other?
Yeah, I think so for marketers, I think the big thing is, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this, but basically give a shit, right? Like, I think care about what you're giving to the sales team. I think a lot of marketers still, like, there's so much talk about it, but a lot of them still don't really care. They're just passing things over. They're measured off of the wrong things. And it's like, a lot of people in marketing are intimidated by salespeople. That's just like the reality. And so I think they're hesitant to go sit in a sales meeting and like say like, here's what we're thinking about, here's what we're going to run. But I found like the more you do that and the earlier you do that in a campaign, the better, more bought in sales actually is to the results. So I would constantly just go over to Mike Conti's desk, who ran the BDRs there, or ping sales leaders and say like, hey, here's a campaign that we're thinking about. What do you think? Like, poke holes in it, because like ultimately I'm not the one getting on the phone closing these people. It's the sales team. So I need them bought into what we're passing over. And I think where you see misalignment is when marketing doesn't include sales in that process. And then it's like, oh, by the way, here's these 100 leads from this campaign. Like, we expect you to close 20% of them. And sales is like, what is this? Like, hey, why did you pick these people to target? Like, this messaging isn't what we actually say on the phone. And so one is, I think, getting them involved early in the process just to be aligned, but also too, it makes you a better marketer, right? The reality is, like I said, I'm not the one on the phone, and salespeople have tons of great insights and tons of great ways to get people on the hook, right? Like, it's what you guys do all day, is like getting someone to go from hello right off the bat to actually being interested in giving you an hour of their time. You must be saying something really compelling and really interesting to that person. As a marketer, wouldn't you want to know what that is? So I think it's like just viewing it as like sales. The more I can leverage sales is actually going to make my job easier. So I view it as like it's a secret weapon that most marketers don't use.
And H, from your perspective, what's the responsibility of sales leaders to make sure you're working well with marketeers?
Well, I really like what Adam mentioned in terms of what are we measured on, right? And I think that a lot of really forward-thinking companies have moved marketing beyond what we call vanity metrics, right? Let's start thinking about what's the cost per mil or the click-through rate. Let's stop to think about how many impressions we're getting, or even how many MQLs we're getting necessarily, right? And let's actually look at what is the win rate of marketing source pipe. Let's look at how much of the revenue was sourced by marketing, right? And I think when sales and marketing start to look at those kind of revenue-driven metrics together, like all of their activities, all of their planning fall into line, because revenue at the end of the day is what both of us want, right? And so I think if everyone coalesces around those goals, then I think that's when the magic happens. But I remember, Adam, you also, because you are very data-driven, you used to work very closely with the revenue operations team as well, right? So you look at the entire revenue funnel, and that involves marketing, SDRs, BDRs, sales, right? And you're part of that discussion from a revenue operations perspective. So I think having salespeople and marketing people that are data-driven are understanding that revenue funnel is really key.
Nice.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, right, like, I don't really care if you're hitting the number as a company. Nobody's going back and saying like, well, hold on, marketing only drove 25% of the pipeline. They said 30%. So like, that happens when you don't hit the number, right? And so for me, it was less about like credit and more about like, what can we do to just hit the overall number? Forget about the marketing piece for a little bit. So a lot of our efforts sometimes were just like on things we wouldn't get credit for, And I think as a marketer, like that's totally fine, because the reality is like, as we hit the overall number, nobody cares, right? Like how we got there to a certain extent, outside of like, how do we repeat it? But so for me, again, I think like aligning the team as a marketing leader around those metrics too is like, if I'm measuring my team off of MQLs, guess what they're going to do? They're going to go out and look for the lowest, cheapest way they can drive MQLs, and it won't be aligned with quality. I can guarantee you that, right? Because that's not how I'm measuring them. That's not how they're going to get promoted. If I'm measuring them off of marketing source pipeline or marketing source closed $1, like suddenly they care about what the BDR is saying on the phone and why these leads aren't turning into an opportunity. Suddenly they're like, hey, what if I gave you these email templates to use, right? Now they care about like, why aren't sales reps moving these into different stages beyond discovery? Like, and suddenly like the conversation just shifts, and they have an actual investment in understanding what's happening on the sales side.
I love that. No, and I think that's absolutely key, as you say, from those marketing vanity metrics. So I'm just going to sort of wrap up with a fourth and final question now. I think it's fourth. We probably asked many other questions, but I'll say it's the fourth and final question anyway. Many of us, I guess, during this time have almost had a little side project going on. We've got our little breakfast in beds, and I think, Adam, you've got one with a co-partner as well. And you're giving away, obviously you are full of wisdom. And so I believe you and Jesse Rowe are giving away free marketing courses. So it'd be great, first of all, to understand more about them, obviously chance to hook people into them, but also what have you personally gained from that experience of offering those courses out at no commercial gain?
Yeah. So it's been interesting. So it kind of started with like a hatred of marketers on LinkedIn, because I think marketers on LinkedIn, like there's so much fluff and noise out there, right? Where it's like, they all post the same generic things. And it's like, what does that actually mean? Like, that's not tactical advice I can actually implement, saying like marketers should lead with empathy, or the number one skill in marketing is empathy, and that kind of stuff. And it's like, who is that helping, right? Like, and that's not anything I'd actually be like, oh, let me go do that today. And there weren't just enough people like giving tactical advice of like, here's how you do this. Here's how you automate LinkedIn outreach. Here's how you can hijack a post. Here's how you can do these like semi like black hat type things in marketing if you wanted to. And so we decided, talking on one night on the phone, let's just throw it out there of like, let's do a workshop that's just going to get super tactical on how we do things. And we posted about it on LinkedIn, and we had over 2,000 people ended up signing up. And literally it was no more than a phone conversation on a LinkedIn post at the time. And then we're like, oh, I guess we better go do this now. And so we've just put together that 6-week kind of workshop. It's been a fun process. It was, what do I gain? It was, I think, what you asked me, like personally out of it. It's just been fun, like talking marketing. I love doing those kinds of things. And like, part of what I love about marketing is like discovering new tools and new tech and new tactics. And part of the interesting thing is like, as we've been doing this, we've getting a lot of suggestions about tech, like, hey, have you heard about this? Have you heard about this? Or, hey, did you see this company did this? So like, I've just learned a ton from people just pinging me with different ideas and different ways of doing things. And then I think the other thing is, that's been surprising, is a lot of younger marketers have really engaged with the content. So if you think about it, it makes total sense, because like when you go to school, you don't learn anything that actually helps you in day-to-day life as a B2B tech marketer, right? Like they don't go through MQLs. There's no course on like how to run lead campaigns on Twitter. Like they just, at least when I was in school, they didn't do any of that. And so, so I think a lot of people are just learning a lot that are early on in their career, which is awesome to see. So like selfishly, I just enjoy kind of giving that stuff away and seeing how people react to it.
Amazing. And Adam, is it still live where people can sign up to listen to it now if they wanted to?
We just sent out the final episode yesterday, I think it was, but it's still up on the site. So if you go and register at marketingmutiny.com, it's on there. You can get access to all 6 episodes. It'll just put you into a campaign where you can get all of them. So yeah, if you go sign up, you can get access to all of it.
Awesome. Oh, well, I have loved this one. It's actually, I think, has this been our first marketing focus session?
Yeah, which is really embarrassing.
So you have popped our marketing cherry for breakfast in beds.
I'll
try
and unhear that.
But no, that's been awesome, Adam. I mean, we could stay in bed all day chatting to you about this stuff. So yeah, I've loved it.